De La Soul is one of the most unique, forward-thinking groups in the history of music, and a big reason for why they became so influential in hip-hop and even outside of hip-hop is because they stayed true to being themselves. There just isn't a lot of acts in hip-hop as influential as Plug 1, 2, and 3, and yet, when discussing some of their most popular work, it is important to note that they hated it.
We hate this song. 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 We hate this song.
But understanding the hate behind some of their most popular work is actually crucial to understanding De La Soul, and more specifically, their hatred for their breakout single, Me, Myself, and I.
It's just me, myself, and I.
But first, let's talk about who is De La Soul. Straight out of Amityville in Long Island, New York, De La Soul would come together, but before they revolutionized hip-hop, they were just a bunch of high schoolers consisting of Plug 1, aka Posdnuos, Plug 2, aka Trugoy the Dove or Dave, and Plug 3, aka Mace, or Maceo, or Maso? And although not an official member, there was also Prince Paul, who helped on a lot of the experimental side of things. And with this crew assembled, De La Soul would put together a demo tape that would get them signed to Tommy Boy and set them on the path to release 3 Feet High and Rising. 3 Feet High and Rising is one of the most important albums in hip-hop, especially for the 80s. The record flipped the perception of what rap could be, because when thinking about some of the more notable albums for late 80s hip-hop, you might think about NWA's Straight Outta Compton, or Public Enemy's It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. They were very politically charged, if you may. And on the other hand, you had De La Soul rapping about people that don't use soap.
Just take your big ass to the bathroom and please use a little bit of soap.
And that is not to put De La Soul down, because it was clear that they were here to solidify a different style of hip-hop.
Greetings, girl, and welcome to my world.
Tracks like I Know, for example, where the instrumentation was very jazzy, feel good maybe. It was definitely smooth. And although the lyrics weren't about making you dance or had a political message to them, they were still smooth.
Dolby sound will be in top crown when I put the needle into your groove.
And that's a big reason for why it holds up even till this day. Songs like The Magic Number showcase the identity of the group, or at least what the group tries to be, with the high-paced production alongside some high-paced and definitely experimental flows for the time.
Hustle no rock and roll unless your name's Brewster, cause Brewster's a punk.
There are many songs that I can showcase, whether it be Daisy Age or Plug Tuning or Ghetto Thing, and many more on the album. But for today, I want to focus on Me, Myself, and I.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, tell me, mirror, what is wrong?
This was my introduction to De La Soul, and it was the introduction of many to De La Soul, because this was their breakout single. And I mean, really, it's not difficult to talk about this song's success, because the song was big in the States. It was the group's biggest hit even till this day, but it was also big overseas. It apparently topped the charts in the Netherlands, so yeah. And it's a pretty good song in my opinion.
On the soul, they lie down.
The song had all these samples laced within it, which made it jump out in terms of sound. Notably, the song heavily samples Knee Deep.
So me and Maceo sat down and we came up with the idea of using Funkadelic,
which works really well in the context of a late 80s hip-hop song.
It's just me, myself, and I.
On the lyrical side, Dave and Posdnuos present a simple message, but yet a good one. Just be yourself, essentially. And even Q-Tip appears for a little bit here.
I know this, so I point at Q-Tip and he states black is black.
Shout out to the native tongues, I guess. Critically and commercially, the song was De La Soul's most successful song. And yet, if you ask them about it, they'd tell you that they hated this song.
Or is it cause we hate this song?
Well, for the most part at least. In recent interviews, it seems like De La Soul is a bit softer on the track now, but don't let that distract you from the fact that yes, they do hate the song. And I think that the hate that they have for this track is actually justifiable.
My De La Soul, we hate this song.
What Me, Myself, and I did is that it represents one of the biggest issues that De La Soul had throughout their whole career, and it's labels. Labels as in the image that they had put on them, and labels as in record companies. Both of these battles are a big part of the story of De La Soul. And in a way, Me, Myself, and I represents the worst of both sides. On one side, you had the image that De La Soul had, which for a lot of people was like, these are some peace-loving hippies that happen to rap, which made a lot of people think that they were being a gimmick.
Always pushing that we formed an image, there's no need to lie.
It was about rejecting this idea that De La Soul was a bunch of hippies, and yet it just didn't work.
I like to call them the hippies of hip-hop. Their brand new psychedelic rap has helped this album, 3 Feet High and Rising, climb to the top of the charts, performing their big hit, Me, Myself, and I. It's De La Soul.
The other reason why I think that De La Soul hates it a lot is because it represents the beginning of their battle with Tommy Boy. De La Soul's battle with Tommy Boy Records is infamous. It's the reason for a lot of the creative frustration with De La Soul, and it's also the reason why De La Soul wasn't on streaming services up until this year. And it can all be traced back to the release of Me, Myself, and I. Because although the group felt like the album was ready for a release, the record disagreed. They asked for a poppy song, a song that would be more familiar to the listeners. And although it was a good thing initially, the success of this song essentially started the snowball that would become the big feud between Tommy Boy Records and De La Soul. Again, the same feud that basically handicapped the relevance of De La Soul for a long time, and in a way, a feud that tried to kill the legacy of De La Soul. However, with the trio's work back on streaming services, I feel like the future legacy of De La Soul is in good hands. So when the trio says that they hate Me, Myself, and I personally get it. However, Me, Myself, and I also represents the breakthrough for De La Soul. And it really makes you question if the trio would have the legacy that they have right now if it wasn't for Me, Myself, and I. In a way, the song is a blessing and a curse. I want to say now, R.I.P. to Dave Trugoy the Dove. His passing was like really sad for me, especially because I was really happy to see Plug One up there in the Grammys performing for the 50 years of hip hop thing. With that being said though, shout out to Jay Dilla and shout out to y'all. And yeah.